Every remote worker eyeing a cheap Japanese Akiya asks the same nervous question: will the internet actually work out there? It is the wrong thing to worry about. Japan's rural fiber infrastructure is, by international standards, remarkable, and this video will show you the actual numbers behind that claim rather than just asserting it. The real question, the one almost nobody asks first, has nothing to do with bandwidth. It is whether you are legally allowed to sit in that rural house working remotely for more than a few months at a time. Connectivity and legality are two completely different problems, and only one of them is as solved as people assume. Start with the number that actually matters. As of 2024, roughly 99.9% of premises in Japan are covered by fiber optic networks, with only 39 locations nationwide officially classified as zero-broadband areas, a strikingly small residual gap for a country with as much genuinely rural, mountainous terrain as Japan has. Fiber-to-the-home service commonly runs 200 megabits to a full gigabit per second, priced around 4,500 to 6,500 yen a month, cheaper than equivalent service in most Western countries. This is not marketing language from a router company. It reflects a level of deliberate national infrastructure investment that most countries with comparable rural populations have never matched. An Akiya 3 hours from the nearest city is far more likely to have real fiber already run to it than most people assume before they check. Compare that to rural stretches of North America or parts of Europe, where a genuinely remote property routinely means satellite internet or nothing, and the gap in favor of rural Japan becomes obvious rather than theoretical. None of that means every rural signal is equal. Mobile data in rural areas runs measurably slower than in cities, roughly 16% slower on downloads and 22% slower on uploads according to recent nationwide testing. A real gap if your plan depends on a phone hotspot rather than a wired connection. And those 39 zero-broadband locations, while a tiny fraction of the country, are real, specific places, which means checking a given Akiya's actual fiber availability before buying is simple due diligence, not paranoia. For the rare case where fiber genuinely has not arrived, satellite internet through services like Starlink now operates in Japan, delivering 50 to 250 megabits per second for a real but manageable cost, a backup option that did not exist even a few years ago. Some of this channel's own Akiya recommendations, towns paired with commutable access to Fukuoka or Kumamoto rather than deep isolation, also happen to sit exactly where fiber infrastructure is most reliably already built out. One more reason those specific towns keep coming up. The technical problem, in other words, is close to solved, and getting more solved every year. Here is where the excitement should slow down. Japan introduced its first dedicated digital nomad visa in 2024, and it is worth understanding exactly what it does and does not permit. It allows a stay of up to 6 months, working remotely for a company based outside Japan. It requires proof of an annual income of roughly 10 million yen, about 65,000 US dollars, well above what many remote workers actually earn. It requires private health insurance covering a comparable amount, and it explicitly does not allow employment by a Japanese company during that stay. 6 months, a high-income bar, and a hard rule against local work is not the foundation for a permanent, work-from-your-own-Akiya lifestyle. It is a genuinely useful option for a specific, well-paid slice of remote workers who want an extended stay, not a long-term residency solution for someone who has just bought a cheap house and wants to live in it year-round. So, can remote workers actually live in rural Japan on Wi-Fi alone? On the connectivity side, yes, genuinely, more reliably than almost anywhere else in the world at this price point, provided you confirm the specific property is not one of the rare gaps. On the residency side, no, Wi-Fi alone solves nothing. The digital nomad visa helps a narrow, higher income group for half a year at a time. Everyone else is back to the same paths this channel keeps repeating: family ties, employer sponsorship, permanent residency earned over years, or simply staying within tourist visa limits and commuting from elsewhere. Buy the house for the Wi-Fi and the price. Solve the visa on its own terms. Honestly, before you assume a fast internet connection is the same thing as a right to stay connected to it indefinitely. If this made Japan's empty house market a little clearer, subscribe to Akiya Handbook, the channel that explains how Japan's cheap houses actually work, honestly, and without selling you anything. There is also a free guide waiting in the description, the Akiya Buyer's Starter Guide, How to Buy a Cheap House in Japan Without Getting Burned. 11 chapters on the truth about so-called free houses, the hidden costs, and who should not buy. No hype, and completely free. The link is below. Thanks for watching.